What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down what the news, data, and technicals are telling us about the overall market and also for Tesla, how it may affect the share price for tomorrow, and also some very important words from the CEO of Ford about Tesla that are very important to consider. But before I break anything down about all of this information, before I get into any more details and give you guys my Tesla price prediction for tomorrow, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out my shop down below and in the description. If you go right below the comment section or above it, depending on where you're watching this, you can actually see a lot of shirts and custom merch just right over there. If you click on them, you're going to see some merch from me from my shop. If you're interested in buying anything to help support the channel, or if you want any merch to show your pride in investing in Tesla or investing in stocks or being a trader, you have an opportunity to buy some custom merch. It would really help the channel if you're interested. If not, it's completely fine with me. So anyways, now let's talk about what's going on with the markets in Tesla. Well, Tesla actually did sell off almost exactly like I predicted. I told you that Tesla would likely retest 163 in the morning. We actually opened very close to that. Then we'd see Tesla sell off. I actually predicted Tesla would close very not super red, but a little bit in the red around this like 160 area, maybe a little bit higher than that. And that's where Tesla ended up closing. I also made a prediction that the market would get a bit of a pop in the morning and we would see SPY peak between 416 to 418. That is where SPY ended up peaking. Then we got a sell off after that, as I predicted. And seeing that sometimes predictions do come true, typically they do for me. I'm not always going to be correct, so don't always just invest solely based off what I say. But just note that I am seeing more volatility to come in the markets very soon. We may actually remain kind of weak tomorrow, but get ready for Wednesday because things are about to get wild. However, let's first talk about earnings and other factors, and then I'm going to talk about Wednesday. For tomorrow, we have Pfizer and Uber reporting earnings. They're going to be somewhat important, but the more important earnings are going to be AMD and Ford, in my opinion, especially AMD going forward. And then for Wednesday, we have CVS and a couple of other ones which aren't too significant. And then for Thursday, we have Apple, Shopify, Coinbase, Lyft, and Peloton. Lots of big earnings, especially Apple's going to be a big one. Expect a very big reaction on Friday to Apple's earnings. Then on Friday, we also have AMC. But once again, the biggest of the week is going to be Apple. This will affect Tesla, how the whole market moves, and you have to be ready for it. Now, as far as the data goes, I want to just mention that we had the PMI report that came out. For the first 15 minutes, the market was actually kind of positive, liking the data, as we did see PMI very close to expectations. 50.2 is what it was, very close to the forecast. But then the manufacturing data came out, and we saw the prices higher than expected. So right here, and the market, I'm sorry, I can't really highlight one at a time. But anyways, actually I can. But anyways, looking at this, prices were higher than expected. Manufacturing prices went up. The market did not like that because this is telling us that there is a red flag right here, and we could actually see inflation start to go up again. This is also significant because there were some surveys suggesting that consumers are expecting another spike in inflation by next month. Once again, not a guarantee, but if that is the case, that's going to be bearish for the markets. This is part of why the market sold off after the first 30 minutes. But then we got another bounce. The market started to rally like 30 minutes afterwards before getting a final sell off by the end of the day, as many negative divergences ended up playing out. Now, for tomorrow, we have some JOLTS data 30 minutes after the market opens, and also some jobs data. This is going to be very important for us. We want weakness from the job sector because it incentivizes the Fed to not be as hawkish, and it could actually incline the Fed to slow down on rate hikes, if not pause even sooner than expected. But we need some weakness from the job sector, so we'll see if this ends up coming out that way. We want to see more job quits and less job openings. That's what we're going to be watching for. 9.7 million is the forecast for job openings. 4 million is what we want for job quits. However, for Wednesday, it's going to be the biggest day of the week, if not one of the biggest days, because we have the FOMC meeting. We have lots of data coming out, more PMI data and manufacturing data, employment data in the very beginning of the day. Not too significant though, because the market's not going to worry too much about that compared to how much it's going to worry about what's about to happen. I want to give you guys a heads up, okay? Tomorrow is Tuesday. It's going to be the last close we get before the FOMC because the FOMC meeting is going to be intraday on Wednesday. Now, the interest rate hike decision is coming out at about 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. We're expecting a 25 basis point rate hike. The market is priced it in. We should get a positive reaction if we do end up getting this decision. However, for the Fed press conference, it's going to be happening at 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday. This is once again when the market is open. The market's going to go bananas. It's going to go mad. It's going to go crazy once this starts. Jerome Powell is going to be speaking, and what he says will really shock the markets. Now, if he says anything about a pause, the market might rip to the upside. If he doesn't mention a pause or anything like that, we could just see the market continue to remain very volatile. But if Powell keeps on saying things about how, inflation is cooling off or there's signs of disinflation, the market could also love that. So we have to be very careful. His words could be capricious. We don't always know exactly what he's going to say, but he has had a more lightened tone as of recent. So we'll see how this goes. The last thing I want to talk about involving the markets before I talk about Tesla would be the options chain. Just so you guys know, for this week, we have about 800,000 puts expiring, a little bit more than that. And we have about 400,000 calls expiring. Now, we have a 2.13 put to call ratio with max pain at 410. This tells us two things. The market makers could handle some downside because max pain is lower, but at the same time, they are inclined to causing a short squeeze. Now, I don't know what Wednesday will cause. If we are selling off approaching Wednesday, then we could get a pump on Wednesday after Powell speaks. But then for Friday, there is a chance that the market's either going to see a big rug pull after Apple's earnings or we're about to get a massive short squeeze. It's got to be one of those two. It seems a little more likely we might get a short squeeze because of what's happened historically, but I'm always open to anything depending on earnings and other factors. Now, for Tesla, we had a very, very interesting update that just came out. There's been a lot of talk about how many Tesla users have this issue where when they're entering their vehicle, they find it hard for them to actually connect via Bluetooth, and it ends up connecting to the wrong Bluetooth device. This is very frustrating for a lot of them, but Tesla actually came out with a solution, and they're basically going to be announcing prioritizing one device at a time, or a priority device, and this basically works great as long as the vehicle selects the correct Tesla profile, right? So this will actually help to troubleshoot, a lot of these issues. So that's a very good thing that Tesla's working on. The Ford CEO also mentioned something very important about Tesla. For the short term, he does have a good point, but for like the medium to longer term, I don't agree with him. He basically mentioned the fact that he has some warnings for Tesla about their product freshness. He believes that Tesla's cars are at risk of becoming a commodities. There's some truth behind that, of course. He did also mention that there could be price cuts, or at least a price war for the EV market, at least back during during last summer, and he was correct about that. However, he also mentioned that Tesla cannot just cut prices. They have to actually do a better job at becoming and remaining more fresh and relevant, and etc. And in essence, he believes that cutting costs and prices is only part of the equation to create demand. I think he has a good point about that, but so far the data does not completely support what he's saying. To some degree, it does. But here's the thing you have to remember. Tesla is going to be improving their product line very, very soon. We have lots of new models coming out, and I do believe they're going to be announcing new models too, based off what they hinted during Investor Day. Now, I do agree with Electrek's take on this. They basically mentioned that Tesla has been making its own products the best way they can. However, he does have a point because of the fact that Tesla does technically only have 4 models, no new models since 2019, except for the Cybertruck, which is going to help fix that. Now, I disagree with the take that Tesla is not very, very fresh because of the fact that Tesla has a very loyal brand. People are going to continue to buy these products because of the fact that the cars update like crazy. They're very different from a typical conventional car. They have so many cool features. They have FSD and many updates, and that's part of what makes them so much better. They also have a very, very strong brand and base, so lots of people are still buying them, and more models will once again come. We have the Cybertruck, the Roadster, all of them are going to help with the sales. And right now, the Cybertruck is continuing to explode. Tesla does not need to give us 20 different models at a time. They could just do one at a time every few months, every like year or so, because when a new model comes out, the sales are just going to explode. Okay. And that's something that Elon Musk mentioned. Cybertruck sales are just blowing through the roof already. It's already a big hit. And this will most definitely help with deliveries and revenue and their earnings going forward. Also, don't forget, during Investor Day, Tesla showed two more cars underneath a sheet. That tells me there's something big coming very soon. Maybe within the next few months, maybe in a year from now, they will announce new models, and I do believe Tesla will take care of this problem. But once again, I mean, he does have somewhat of a point because he is right. The CEO of Ford, he is correct about how cutting costs is not everything, it is only part of the equation. But once again, you have to account for the other models coming out and how big Tesla's brand is. Now, when I talk about how big Tesla's brand is, look at the inventory levels. They're continuing to decline, which is some very good news for us. They were just at about 606 just a couple of weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago. Now they're around like the 100 and what is that, like 100 something mark. uh, Very, very low. I would say below 200, which is much lower compared to before. This is great news because we're getting closer to summer and lots of people are continuing to buy up these Teslas. That is very, very awesome news for Tesla. As far as the price price ratio goes, however, Tesla is once again not really keeping up with the market too well. We're seeing a declining ratio, which means that Tesla is losing relative strength. And on top of that, the analysts are saying hold on to Tesla, nothing new from yesterday, but we're green about 51% of the time on Tuesdays. The best hour tends to be the third hour. Also, the fourth hour tends to be pretty good too, third and fourth hours of the day. And the second to last hour of the day tends to be strong too. Now we're entering May. Tesla tends to be green only about 50% of the time in May. It's not always the strongest month for the markets. And I do believe there is some potential for downside to come, but there's no guarantee the market is done just yet with the pumping. I will explain this in just a couple of minutes, what I mean by that. Tesla has been seeing more shorting as of recent. We saw about 20 million Tesla shares shorted just a couple of days ago, 2 trading days ago. So if the shorts continue to increase their positions, this could also lead to more selling pressure for Tesla. That is part of why Tesla's underperforming right now. 108 million in volume is relatively low for Tesla standards. We want something around like 125 million at least. Less volume tells me that Tesla is becoming a little bit exhausted. We're not seeing the same amount of buying pressure, more institutions buying like before. And this is actually leading to the price decline a bit. This is why Tesla's a little bit down. And also, our short volume is going up a little bit relative to price. It used to be 45%, now it's about 53%. So there's a little bit more shorting for Tesla, which is negatively impacting the share price. But what do I see for Tesla though? Well, if we're bullish, okay, if you want to turn bullish, this thing needs to break above 163. If we're bearish, it needs to break below 160, right? And I think we're basically stuck in the middle. But what I'm seeing for the market is a very boring day tomorrow. I'm seeing lots of choppy price action. So I think Tesla will just be stuck between support and resistance. But we might get an end of the day sell off because of the FOMC meeting. We might see a lot of hedging and lots of profit taking because, as I mentioned before, tomorrow is going to be the last close before the FOMC meeting. So for tomorrow for Tesla, I think it might pop up for like 163, come a little bit low. It's about 160. Then just trade sideways, chop around quite a bit, and then end up just continuing to decline maybe by the end of the day, closing a little maybe below or very close to like 160, 158 could also come a little bit below 160 for another somewhat red day, but I do see it being flat for the most part, not really doing too much. I just think the market's waiting for FOMC. However, for SPY, I see something different. On the 1 hour time frame, we have a PPO crossover. We have some bearish momentum here, and we have a negative divergence on the RSI. When you get rid of the extended hours, the same thing is developing. We're actually just barely getting the crossover now, so it's a little bit delayed on the non-extended hours, just the regular hours, and you're actually about to get a crossover on the PPO, which tells me that the market ripped to the upside, right? I was telling you guys about how we had this falling wedge-like pattern on SPY. We broke out of it, right? We pushed up very hard, and now we're hitting some major resistance. The resistance zones I told you yesterday, 416 had some, and 418 had some just as much. And this is where we rejected. Now we're losing momentum. We're seeing the bulls losing lots of strength. The market is slowing down, and we're about to start to see more of a decline, in my opinion. I do see SPY making an attempt to go up in the morning. We could retest maybe 416 depending on the jobs numbers, but then I see it declining and possibly retesting 415. If 415 fails, it's going to come all the way down, most likely to about 413.48 to about 414. So we could actually see another red day, but I think it's going to be a very choppy as well with some selling. And I think we're going to close a little red again, maybe around 414s, but that's what I'm basically seeing. For the QQQ, I'm seeing the same thing. This actually looks a little bit more excuse me, sorry guys, a little bit more bearish than spikes. We have another bearish divergence developing from the RSI and also on the PPO because of the fact that it's declining compared to the price going up. The price made a new high today, hitting 323. I did make a prediction that we could pop in the morning once again, maybe get very close to about 324, then reject, and that is what happened. We came up, we rejected and failed. What do I see for tomorrow? Sideways price action again, a bit of a sell-off, and we could come closer to where the 50 EMA is, around the 320 area, if not a little bit lower than that. But I am anticipating some more downside to come tomorrow, just very flat price action with some more selling. And I do believe we're going to get another reaction to this after the FOMC meeting. The VIX is starting to look bullish to me. We're getting a potential crossover. I'm not saying it's going to fly to like 20 or anything like that, but I do believe it's going to make an attempt to get back to about 17. Why? Because the S&P 500 may cool off, and the S&P 500 cooling off will affect the whole market. In fact, it's impacted by most of the market anyways. So the VIX might bounce to start pushing up for the 17 plus area. We have a possible, I'm not really seeing a divergence, but I am seeing a potential bullish momentum that's developing right here on the PPO. And then without the extended hours, you can also look at the VIX that way. It doesn't really do anything, but it's the same thing basically. For some other stocks out there, I'm just going to quickly go over these guys. I think I'm kind of over time. On the Coinbase stock right now, I made a prediction that this thing would retest 50. That's what it's done. It's continuing to downtrend. I just see some very flat price action, maybe a retest of 48 to 50. But then we have earnings by Thursday, so it's going to likely make a big move after that. For Amazon, it did almost exactly what I predicted. Where's my Amazon chart? Almost exactly what I predicted. I told you all we had this head and shoulders developing, and we would likely sell off to 103 to 102. We closed around 102.05. So almost exactly what I predicted. I am seeing Amazon potentially trying to bounce tomorrow morning, then come right back down to 101.8, and then it should get closer to about 100 flat and just trade sideways between 100 and 102 before we actually see the big events. Nvidia, it was very bullish, but super overbought. It might actually cool off a little bit, retest 285 and just trade sideways from there. For Apple, it's going to likely see some downside. I'm seeing a negative divergence developing. It's going to likely come down to the 50 EMA, which is around 167. And I believe it is due for a bit of a pullback, cooling off in a very healthy way. Is completely fine and completely normal. Nothing to be worried about, because remember, the big event is FOMC. We're going to react to that. That's going to be bigger. For AMD, it has earnings tomorrow after the market closes. So far, it's actually gaining some strength, but it is slowing down right now. It has more strength compared to the market, so I do expect it to chop around a lot. And we're going to make a big move approaching earnings. I don't know if we're going to sell off first, but after earnings comes out, get ready for lots of volatility. For Google, it did almost exactly what I predicted. I predicted we'd hit about 109, then reject, because we rejected off that many times. Instead, we hit about 108.7, so super close to 109, then rejected from there. It's going to likely continue to decline, and we might see it get very close to where, I think I have to bring up the extended hours when showing you this, to where our EMA happens to be. So it might actually retest the 200 around 106 for a slight decline. Meta is very overbought and might also cool off a bit, get close to about 240, but I don't think it's going to be that extreme since Meta has lots of strength. The 10-year treasury yield is starting to pump a bit. This is once again bearish for the stock market. If it keeps going, that's going to remain more and more bearish if it starts to fill this gap. I think it already filled this gap, but there's another gap up to 36. I believe this thing might actually cool off a little bit in the morning, then just continue to bounce off this 200 EMA. And this was previous resistance. It's now going to become support. So what this tells me is tomorrow morning, the market might get a pop right? We might try to push up again in the morning. Then we might actually see a bounce on the 10-year treasury yield. The VIX also pushing up because of the S&P 500 possibly declining. And then we should end up with very choppy price action, maybe a small pop in the morning, then choppy price action, then a sell-off by the end of the day, similar to today, except it could be a little bit more extreme. And I wouldn't be surprised if we close a little red again right before FOMC. That's what I'm seeing. But don't forget, guys, be ready for tomorrow because some uh, unemployment numbers are going to be coming out and also the JOLTS data. That's very important. And then we're going to get a big reaction to FOMC. Once again, for Tesla, I mean, I did bring up the bullish case, but I don't think it's very likely that happens unless we get a bullish piece of news in the morning. I don't really see it right now. I've been seeing the news remaining more negative about Tesla. So my best prediction would be this thing pushing up in the morning, retesting like 163, rejecting off of it, trading sideways and just chopping throughout the majority of the day. Then maybe there are going to be some brief moments and comes below 160 for like 158, 156 around there. But I do believe it's going to close between the 158 to about 160 area, somewhere around there. I think it might try to hold 160 barely. But I do see potential for Tesla to close red again. Momentum is favoring the bears for now. Unless we get a bullish catalyst, I still think Tesla's going to decline and get another red day tomorrow. That's what I'm predicting. I don't think it's going to be extreme though. And don't forget, FOMC could obviously cause everything to reverse. So could Apple's earnings. There's no guarantee the market will keep declining for the rest of the week. I'm just talking about tomorrow in particular. All right, guys. So thank you all for listening. Have an incredible rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Tesla to the moon because the long term is still incredibly bright. And peace out.